Hi there, folks. Welcome to my live stream. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, folks. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I say that I used to be a type 2 diabetic very, very intentionally. I used to be. I'm in remission. I reversed it. I don't take medications for it anymore. However you want to word it, I don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. And I love to do these live streams and tell people exactly what I do to achieve that. So stick around for me. In fact, if that's something that you think is valuable information, then tap the screen there and just start giving this thing likes. And what's up, Andrew? How are you, buddy? How are you, Eddie? Anyway, folks, welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be type 2 diabetic. And I say that I used to be type 2 diabetic very, very, very intentionally. I have reversed my type 2 diabetes. I'm in remission from my type 2 diabetes. I don't take medication for it anymore. That's because my doctor told me I didn't have to. So however you want to word it, I just don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. And I love to do these live streams and tell people exactly what it is that I do to achieve that. So if that is something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. And I'm going to tell you everything that I do to achieve that. Let me make sure. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm thinking you can. Andy, can you hear me okay, bud? Can everybody hear me okay? I'm curious. I'm trying out a new microphone, and I'm curious if you can hear me. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me? Now I'm concerned. Let's see. Hi there, folks. Welcome to my live stream. Andy, can you hear me, bud? Ooh, I know what I could do. Hi there, folks. Yep. We got volume. Okay. Just a quiet crowd. Hi there, folks. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I say that I used to be a type 2 diabetic very, very, very intentionally. I have reversed type 2 diabetes. I'm in remission from type 2 diabetes. I don't take medication for type 2 diabetes anymore. That's because my doctor told me I didn't have to. She doesn't think that I haven't. In fact, I was a 12.2% A1C. I'm now a 5.1% A1C, and I've been completely unmedicated for like over a year now. So if that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. I'm going to tell you everything that I do to achieve that. So more than that, if that's something that sounds interesting to like a family member or a friend or somebody like that, somebody you care about, then share this live stream with them and let's get them involved in the conversation as well. So with that being said, let me do another round of introductions for those people that are just now joining the live. Folks, welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I love, love, love being able to say that. I used to be a type 2 diabetic. So here's the deal. I have reversed it. There's a Dr. Jason Fung who suggests that type 2 diabetes is a completely reversible disease. It is not progressive. It is not chronic, the things that we've heard before. He says that it's a fully reversible disease. I'm in remission from it. I found articles that suggest that type 2 diabetes remission is achievable, oftentimes through weight loss. And then finally, my doctor, she took me off my medications because she didn't think that I needed them anymore. So however you want to word it, I don't have it anymore. And I love doing these live streams and telling people exactly what it is that I do to achieve that success. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. I'm going to tell you every single thing that I do to achieve that. So without further ado, what do I do to achieve that type 2 diabetes remission? Well, the first thing that I do is I start focusing on the root cause. Now, the root cause of type 2 diabetes is something called insulin resistance. And that's what this thing is behind me. This image behind me is depicting insulin resistance as the root cause for type 2. And as you can see, a lot of other things. And I'll tell you where I got the image from here in just a moment, but the image comes from a very credible source. What's up, Gare? How are you, buddy? How are you, brother? I see you there. So insulin resistance is our root cause for type 2 diabetes. Now, what is insulin resistance? That really is going to be what this conversation is all about, is what exactly is type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. So let's start with what is insulin, right? We got to understand insulin to understand what insulin resistance is. So when you consume carbohydrate, that's something like a piece of bread, your body converts that carbohydrate to glucose, and that glucose goes out to your bloodstream, and that is what your cells use for energy. So it makes perfect sense. That is what your cells use for energy. Now, the cells are locked. They don't just take in the glucose. They need help. And the help is insulin. So your pancreas secretes a hormone called insulin. And one of the jobs of that hormone is to act as a gatekeeper or a key to the cell. It kind of unlocks the cell for the glucose to go in. Now, when the cell stops responding to the insulin, that is insulin resistance. And what happens after that? Well, our blood sugar starts rising, our blood glucose, we become hyperglycemic, right? And what tells the pancreas to secrete more insulin, of course, is elevated blood sugar. So while you're becoming progressively more hyperglycemic or elevated glucose or elevated blood sugar, whatever you want to call it, we're becoming more and more and more hyperinsulinemic. And that elevated insulin, that hyperinsulinemia, that is what's causing the cell to stop responding. So if you want to reverse your insulin resistance, well, stop being hyperinsulinemic. Lower the insulin in your bloodstream. And so that is what this conversation is going to be about, is lowering our insulin. It's an insulin lowering strategy. There's a mouthful, right? An insulin lowering strategy. So as we carry on, keep in mind that this entire thing is about promoting insulin sensitivity. What can we do to promote insulin sensitivity? So with that in mind, I've talked about what is insulin resistance, what causes insulin resistance. I want to talk about what does insulin resistance cause. And that's a big thing as well. That's what this image behind me really is. And to talk about what this image is, I want to first talk about where I got it from. So this guy here is Dr. Ben Bikman. Now, Dr. Ben Bikman is a professor of cell biology and physiology at BYU. The guy is quite brilliant. He's got his PhD from Eastern Carolina. He's got his master's and his bachelor's from BYU. Particular emphasis on insulin resistance. You can go through his research interests. He's been teaching for some time. You can see all these courses that he's taught, and he's been published a lot on the topic of insulin resistance. As you go through these publications, you'll see metabolic diseases, obesity and glucose intolerance, glycemic control. You get the hint. Okay, so this is Dr. Ben Bikman. If you go over to Google and look up Google, type in Google, Dr. Ben Bikman insulin resistance, you get about 269,000 results. Okay, so this is a website that Dr. Bikman has developed. It's called insuliniq.com. If you are type 2, if you are pre-diabetic, if you're any of those things in that image behind my head, this is where you should start. Go to insuliniq.com. For what it's worth, I have no affiliation with Insulin IQ other than I'm just a big fan of Dr. Ben Bikman. But you'll see on the cover, Dr. Ben Bikman is a professor, author, researcher, and metabolic scientist. As we scroll down, you'll find his book, Why We Get Sick. This is one of the world's leading, if not the leading metabolic scientist. This book is his book. If you want to get healthy, if you want to stop being sick, start with this book. This book will change your life. So, with that being said, if you scroll down a little bit further on the page, you come across that image. This is where I got this image from. So when I say we've talked about insulin, what is insulin? What is insulin resistance? What does insulin resist? What causes it? And then what does it cause? Well, this image is what Dr. Ben Bikman suggests happens when we are insulin resistant. So without further ado, let me take this off of my background and we will just jump over to that image. Okay. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation here. I'm going to ask you guys as we go through this. First off, this is a very engaging live stream. Work with me here. Talk to me, ask questions, engage with me. I love engagement. I love to answer questions. I try and answer questions as they're coming in. So please feel free to ask questions. Let's start the engagement off. I'm going to start naming off the conditions on this image above my head. If the condition applies to you or somebody that you know, then type the word. Actually, you know what? We're not going to do that. Just do me a favor. Looking at this image, do any of those conditions apply to you or somebody that you know? Do you know anybody who has dementia or Alzheimer's or type 2 diabetes or an obesity problem or heart disease or stroke or anything like that? Do you know anybody that has any of those types of conditions? If so, then just type I do in the comments section. And then the other question that I would ask is, are you taking medications? I see right away. Gary says yes. Thank you, Gary. Right away, we got yes. Now, are you taking medications for any of those symptoms? Barbara says I do. Now, are you taking any medications for the symptom? And you're noticing I'm calling that a symptom. I'm calling it that intentionally. This is a symptom. Think about it as a symptom rather than a chronic and progressive disease, right? Deal with the root cause and you'll address the symptom. Okay, so with that being said, I've asked that question. Now just think to yourself, are you doing anything about the root cause or are you just treating the symptom? And then how many medications are you throwing at a specific symptom? Some people are, taking 2 or 3 medications for a symptom. And what's happening? The symptom's getting worse, and all of a sudden the medication isn't as effective. Well, why is that? It's because they never addressed the root cause. And so in time, the symptom outgrows the medication. For me, as an example, when I was a kid, I had migraine headaches, and I couldn't deal with them. They would plague me. A 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, I'd put myself to bed at 5 p.m. That's just not normal. And I would do it because a dark, cold room with the windows drawn, the shades drawn was the only way I could get through a migraine headache. Put myself to sleep, and I knew that when I woke up, it would be better, right? And that's just an awful way to grow up, but that was my reality. We discovered ibuprofen, and 200 milligrams made it better. But then in a few years, it needed 400 milligrams. Then in a few years, I needed 600 milligrams. See, the problem was I was never addressing the root cause, which was insulin. And I had that at a very young age. It is expected that diabetes of the youth is expected to grow by 700% by 2060. Why is that? Why are we getting sicker? Why are we becoming progressively more type 2 diabetic, more obese? Why is Alzheimer's on the rise? Why is heart disease still at the top of the list? Why, oh, why? That's what we're going to be talking about, okay? So I've talked about what is insulin resistance, what causes it, and then what does it cause. Now let's jump into what do I do to reverse mine? What did I do to reverse it? What do I do? I don't like what did I do because I do this every day to this day, and I will do this for the rest of my life. It's pretty simple. Let me get a drink. Okay. Guys, it's a 3-step protocol. And a lot of people take notes. It's kind of weird to think that people would take notes of things that I say, but a lot of people do. So feel free to take notes. Okay, so step 1 of the 3-step protocol is intermittent fasting, a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. So what does that look like? 16 and 8 time-based eating. If hyperinsulinemia is the problem, right? If elevated insulin is what's causing the problem, well, then lower the insulin, right? What causes the insulin? Glucose. What causes the glucose? The foods that we're putting in our mouth. What if we just pause putting the foods in our mouth? What if we pause? I'm not saying quit. Let's just pause. Now, for me personally, What this sounds like is at 8 p.m., I'm done eating for the day. I've had dinner. I'm not really hungry anymore. I've had a big enough meal that I feel full enough that I don't need another meal. So at 8 p.m., I kind of draw a hard line, no more food. And I don't eat again until noon the following day. And at noon, I allow myself 2 meals for the next 8 hours. So between noon and 8, 2 meals, no snacks. I'm not talking about counting calories. I'm not talking about portion sizes. I never do. Okay, now we don't need to just eat a ton of food, but I'm not talking about really counting calories or portion sizes, right? I eat enough food, and I do choose foods that are nutritious enough that I feel like they will get me through until the next meal. And then I do the same thing at dinner. Now, what am I doing here? By fasting, I'm not putting food in my body. My body's not converting anything to glucose. My glucose levels are naturally just dropping. And as they drop, so are my insulin levels. Now, this is absolutely key, right? We want to drop our insulin levels. The other thing, are we starving during that time? I think we have this misconception that if you're doing that, you're starving, but you're not. So we've all got this spare tire, right? It's getting to be the summer season. I was just talking to, I took my son to school, and I was talking to another father who does the same with his son every day. And we were talking about summer's on us. We're getting ready to go on vacation. We're getting ready to go to Florida to the beach. I can't wait. But how many of us aren't ready to go to a beach yet? We're not ready to get down to the swimsuit, right? Just not quite there yet. What is that? What is the spare tire, the love handles? What is it? It's an added fuel source. It's an alternative fuel source. Your bodies are brilliant. Let's just make this clear, okay? Your body is brilliant. It does things without your knowledge, right? To keep itself alive. It's absolutely brilliant. Well, one of the things that it does is it stores excess glucose for later use, for times of famine. Now, we don't ever really have times of famine right now. We're very blessed. We live in a great time to be alive, right? We don't really have times of famine. But historically, that's not been the case. And so what happens is you might have a small meal, nuts and berries, something whole food, right? And it may be 6 or 8 hours before you come across another bush. Very nomad and eating things that are very nutritious. And every few days, they might get a protein, right? So while they were eating, their body was storing away excess energy for later use. That's what those love handles are. Now, we don't ever tap into that because we don't ever stop eating. We eat 8 times a day. Well, I mean, really, just try and think. Maybe tomorrow or the day after. Today, just put a little hash mark every time you put something in your mouth. I bet you it will shock you. I bet it'll shock you. It's amazing. In fact, when I got diabetes, I went to my dietitian, and my dietitian said 3 meals a day with a healthy snack in between. Have a healthy breakfast, 30 to 60 carbs. Have a healthy snack, up to 15 carbs. Have a healthy lunch, 30 to 60 carbs. Have a healthy snack, up to 15 carbs. And then a dinner, 30 to 60 carbs. And that's what we're taught to do. In fact, I'm asking for some more engagement here again. How many of us wake up in the morning and have a cup of sugary coffee, whether that's today or yesterday or years past? Has that been a habit in your lifestyle? Now, what are you doing when you wake up and you have that sugary cup of coffee? You're instantly spiking your glucose. Just like that, right? And then what happens? You instantly spike your insulin. Now, if you are insulin sensitive, your glucose might come down in a couple hours, in an hour or two. But if you are insulin resistant, as Dr. Ben Bickman says, 88% of us are. And that study, where he gets that from, is this right here. This is the prevalence of optimal metabolic health in American adults. It was a study that was done in 2019 where they found that 12.2% of Americans achieved optimal metabolic health. That means 88% of us don't. 333 million Americans in our last census. That means about 300 million of us are insulin resistant. When 9 out of 10 of us fail a test, is it because of the student or is it because of the system? And that's what we need to understand. Now, if you're one of those 9 out of 10, your insulin doesn't come down in an hour or two. It might take 6 or 8 or 10 hours for your insulin to come down. It's just going to take a long time, but we never give that opportunity, right? You have that sugary cup of coffee, but then you move on to a bagel, 55 carbs, or maybe you do a slice of toast. Maybe you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do something all natural. I'm going to have some orange juice and a banana. It's just straight sugar water. Maybe you do the fast solution. You know it's not the best, but you do a bowl of cereal. Think about all of these things that we have first thing in the morning that cause our glucose to spike, and then we spike our insulin. And then the insulin starts to try and come down, but we eat a snack. We spike the glucose again, our insulin goes back up. And then it starts to come down again, and then we have lunch. And what do we do for lunch? Sandwiches, starchy bread, French fries, right? More glucose, more insulin. And then how many of us at the end of the day, well, the middle to end of the day, are just exhausted at work? You feel like you could take a nap. And what do? You either go for some more coffee, maybe you go for a soda or a bag of chips. And then you get home. If you're like me, my family, we thought, hey, we're going to do a home-cooked meal every night. We're not going to eat out because that's junk food. Let's have some mashed potatoes. Every night for dinner, we'd have mashed potatoes. By the way, those are awful for you. We had no idea, but they're awful for you. They are very high in the glycemic index. They're spiking your glucose. They're spiking your insulin. And then how many of us, folks, I'm asking a poll question of the people listening, how many of you treat yourself to a treat at the end of the day, a scoop of ice cream or a cookie or a little Snickers bar or something like that? Something, it's been a long day. I deserve a treat. How many of you do that? Just type me. If that's you, then just type me. And what I've just illustrated, whether this directly applies to you or not, is a method for us to wake up. It was before getting on the system, thanks to you and Michelle. Barbara, I love that. Love that. We wake up in the morning, we spike our glucose, which then spikes our insulin. And then we do that all throughout the day till the moment that we go to bed. And what have we done? We've kept our insulin in that hyperinsulinemic stage all day long. Amanda, potatoes, rice, cool completely, creates resistant starch. Amanda, I love that. Resistant starch. So I wear a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, specifically a Freestyle Libre 3. It's their newest one. It gives me to the minute updates on my glucose. And I have definitely tested that. I've gone so far as to buy specific types of rice, specific brands of rice that claim to be in the low glycemic index range. There's a guy on TikTok who does videos where he shows his CGM and the results after he eats. And he did one where he added some coconut oil to his rice while he was cooking it, supposedly lowered it down. I did that with Parish rice, and Parish rice claims to be low in the glycemic index. And it did. My numbers, I let it cool overnight for 24 hours. And when I had it, I noticed my glucose was pretty reasonably low. It was actually, I was really shocked. And then I went to sleep, and at about 3 o'clock in the morning, it hit like 190. So what I have noticed is that it will bump in the morning. At some point, you're going to get a spike. Now, I heard Dr. Ken Berry a while ago. And if you're unfamiliar with Dr. Ken Berry, he's a family doctor, medical doctor. He has family practice. And he was talking about this very thing, resistant starch. And he would say that it's still long-chain sugars. It doesn't matter. It's going to spike your sugar sooner or later. And it did for mine. It did it at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's not unusual to have your glucose rise in the morning. You can look into something called the dawn phenomenon. However, when mine might rise, it might hit 130 or 140. It doesn't hit 190. And I've tested it now multiple times. In fact, I had white rice last night, and same thing. It was fine while I was awake, and then when I went to sleep, boom, and it went high. I mean, not like 300 high, which it used to go 300 high, so I guess it's not that. But it still went 180, 190. Actually, I think last time it went over 200. So just think about that. Could you try it with the fiber first, then protein, then fat, then starch as an experiment for me? Amanda, I already do that. I already do that. What Amanda is suggesting is that there is a specific way to eat your food. I rarely talk about this, but have your salad first. And by the way, your salad dressing is swimming in seed oil. Not good for you. It's causing inflammation. Seed oils are not good for you. So if you're going to try a salad, which you should, try some olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Try that. Or make your own, ranch dressing or something like that, and use avocado oil or or olive oil, something like that, instead of the canola oils or vegetable oils. So start with your salad, your fiber, and then focus on your fats and proteins, your quality fats and proteins, and then eat your carbohydrates last. There's been studies at Cornell University that would suggest that that is an ideal way to eat. And I've been doing that for quite a while. I still get that spike. The fact of the matter is, like Dr. Ken Berry says, it's still a long chain sugar. No matter how you slice it or dice it, it's still a long chain sugar. How did you get your CGM? My insurance won't pay because I'm not on insulin. Now, Nubian, doesn't that just suck? Talk about the insurance company telling people what they can and can't have. It sounds like they are dictating what doctors can and can't prescribe, the insurance company. So, yeah, that is common. And mine wouldn't cover it either. So I said I was going to self-pay for it. It cost me about $77 a month here in Colorado. I will pay that all day long. It is so valuable to know what my glucose is doing all day long. Also, last month, CGMs were approved for over-the-counter, and Dexcom now has one out that's available over-the-counter. So you can look into that as well. Anyway, okay, so I think I've caught up with those questions. I love the engagement, by the way. Thank you for the questions. And Amanda, I hope that I've somewhat addressed yours. Okay, so excuse me. Okay, let me think. Where was I? I was talking about intermittent fasting. What I did was basically draw out an example of a way for us to keep ourselves hyperinsulinemic all day long, from dawn until dusk, right? And that's not good. We don't want to do that. So when I talk about intermittent fasting, what I'm really saying is that at 8 p.m., you're done eating. You don't eat anymore. Couple, 3 hours, you go to bed, you sleep for 8 hours. The majority of your fast is done while you're asleep. You wake up and you just skip breakfast. The level of commitment that I'm talking about is skipping breakfast. And of course, we're not going to put cream or sugar in your coffee. If you're going to use cream, heavy whipping cream, just a splash of it. Let's get away from the skim milk and the flavored and all that stuff. Heavy whipping cream, just a splash, okay? If you must have a sweetener, maybe just a dash of stevia or a dash of monk fruit, something like that. Okay, so here we are. We get through to noon. What have we accomplished? There's a Dr. Mark Mattson. He's a neuroscientist out of Johns Hopkins Medical University. Go Google him and read his work. He's fascinating. Dr. Mark Mattson has been studying intermittent fasting for more than 25 years, and he would suggest that somewhere around that 12 to 14 hour mark, your body is going to metabolically switch from glucose, using glucose for a fuel source, over to fat, right? And so at about 12 to 14 hours, what are you using for your fuel? Is those love handles you're trying to get rid of for beach season. You're using those for fuel. You're not starving. You're tapping into that alternative fuel source, something that your body has created for you to use. Okay? So every hour past about 12 or 14 hours is really just fat burning mode. Think about it like that. You're not starving. Now, initially, when you start fasting, you might be hearing like some growling, stomach growling, and that your leptin signaling is not where it needs to be. It will get restored and it will get easier. I promise it will get easier. Every single person who has an obesity problem or type 2 diabetic, that I talk to, when they first start talking about this, they're like, I don't think I can skip breakfast. Sure you can. Actually, in fact, the world record for the longest medically supervised fast was 382 days. I'm not suggesting anybody goes 382 days without food, but you can certainly skip breakfast, okay? That's what we're talking about. And it may be a little bit awkward and uncomfortable for a week or so, but your body will adjust. It will get easier. I promise. I was the same boat as you. So with that being said, what we're doing when we do this is we're glucose level down. We're getting our insulin level down. When insulin is suppressed, the fat cell has to shrink. It has to shrink, right? When insulin is elevated, insulin is a store of fat. So when insulin is elevated, you're going to store fat. When insulin is suppressed, you're going to burn it. So by fasting, we're bringing our insulin levels down. We're using our fat for fuel. Voila. Guess what else you're doing? You're promoting insulin sensitivity. You're coming out of that hyperinsulinemic state. That diet example that I was talking about, right? That what we're eating, sugary coffee through the little treat at the end of the night, we've been doing that for decades, right? Decades and decades and decades. Your diabetes didn't happen overnight. They were building for 30 years, 20 years, 30 years. Along the way, you had some other symptoms like I did. I had migraine headaches really early on. I didn't listen to the symptom. I didn't do anything about the symptom, right? And then I got skin tags, right? Skin tags are another symptom of insulin resistance. And then I had all these. I had high blood pressure, another symptom of insulin resistance. That's why I just kept on getting these symptoms. And then finally I got type 2 diabetes, and I was like, where did that come from? Who's heard of Joslin Diabetes Center? If you've heard of Joslin Diabetes Center, type I have. If you've heard of Joslin Diabetes Center, type I have. I'm really kind of curious. How many people have heard of Joslin Diabetes Center? I'm going to dive right into it here. This is Joslin Diabetes Center. This is joslin.org website, okay? And you'll find this is on the history page. I think the history page is just fascinating. Joslin Diabetes Center has been improving the lives of diabetes patients since 1893, so more than 130 years ago. Joslin's Diabetes. Now, this is Dr. Elliot Joslin. Now, in the 1800s, we got to understand diabetes was extremely rare. Extremely rare. There was no reason to specialize in it at all. However, when Dr. Joslin graduated med school, he found out that his mother and his aunt both had diabetes. And for that reason, he would go on to specialize in it. And in fact, he was one of the first doctors to really specialize in it. And Dr. Joslin thought that the keys to controlling your diabetes were strict glucose control and intermittent fasting. Now, strict glucose control, any diabetic knows that watch your sugar is how you manage your diabetes. Right? We know this to be true. So something he was saying 130 years ago, we bought into. We said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Stop, watch the sugar. That will help. The other thing that he said, intermittent fasting. Did we? Now, this is, he actually wrote of the treatment of type 2 diabetes in 1916. He would say that temporary periods of undernutrition are helpful in the treatment of diabetes, will probably be acknowledged by all after these 2 years of experience with fasting. Now, what was Dr. Joslin suggesting here was that this wasn't that big of a deal. All we had to do was stop eating so frequently. And if we would do that, well, the problem would kind of go away, but we didn't do that, right? Because nobody wants to skip a meal. We can't do that. In fact, right after he wrote this, the University of Toronto would discover insulin. That was a game breaker, right? The discovery of insulin. And they sold the patent for insulin to Eli Lilly. We've heard of them before, right? $1. They sold it to them for $1. See, the University of Toronto thought that the discovery of insulin wasn't for an institution, it was for humanity. And at the time, we were really treating type 1 diabetics. Type 2s were extremely rare. You kind of had to be wealthy to get type 2. The average working man couldn't afford pastries and danishes and cakes, the refined products, right? It was the type 1 diabetics who didn't produce insulin. Amanda says, I'm interested to see how this will and would help with PCOS. Absolutely. That's caused by insulin resistance, PCOS. Absolutely. Right here, this is Dr. Ben Bickman's image, PCOS. I've seen multiple women reverse their PCOS doing this exact same thing. Actually, I'm getting ready to talk about that in just a moment. In fact, Amanda, as I think about this, I'm getting ready to talk about this in just a moment. Now, Dr. Elliot Jocelyn, the University of Toronto, at the time, type 1 diabetes was really the prominent one. It was not type 2. Type 2 was extremely rare. So the development of insulin was really for the type 1 diabetics, right? And that's why they sold it to Eli Lilly, because Eli Lilly had the ability to mass produce it and get it out. And the University of Toronto didn't believe that it was theirs. They thought it belonged to humanity. And the best vehicle to get it out was through Eli Lilly. Now, 2022, the global human insulin drug market was estimated to be $45 billion. A billion. And how many type 2 diabetics do you know are now on insulin? A lot. So many type 2 diabetics are on insulin. And if hyperinsulinemia is the problem, then why are we having them inject themselves with more? Why? So I want to play a video. This is my TikTok page. Let's see here. This is my TikTok page. Okay, and when we're done with this live, I would really suggest you go sifting through my videos. You'll find that my videos are all very, very commonly themed. And as I scroll down here a little bit, I'm going to find one by Dr. Ben Bickman, that gentleman that I showed you his credentials earlier from BYU. Dr. Bickman, boy, right here. And this is Dr. Ben Bickman talking about the dangers of insulin therapy with type 2 diabetics, okay? So if you are a type 2 diabetic and you're taking insulin, or if you know a type 2 diabetic who's taking insulin, maybe show them this video.
But regardless, because we have a glucose-centric view of the disease, essentially the clinician is saying, well, to heck with your insulin. Who cares if we push it up even higher? They might not even know where it is. All they know is if they push the insulin up even higher, the glucose will in fact come down. And because that's the target, the glucose, they believe they're achieving the optimal outcome. However, it's much more complicated and sinister than that. The more aggressively we're giving a type 2 diabetic insulin to control their glucose, the faster we kill them. They are 3 times more likely to die from heart disease, and twice as likely to die from cancer, and twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. And throughout all of it, they need more and more and more insulin because they're becoming ever more resistant to it.
So tell me that's not fascinating, right? I bet you if you were to ask the type 2 diabetics that you know that are on insulin, I bet you the majority of them would say that their insulin usage has gone up since they started taking insulin. They are becoming more and more and more resistant. In fact, are there any type 2s on insulin right now that are listening to me? And if there are, would you validate what Dr. Bickman just said? If you are a type 2 on insulin, has your insulin usage gone up or down since you started? If you're a type 2 that's taking insulin. Okay. Now, who's heard of Dr. Jason Fung? Dr. Jason Fung. Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist out of Toronto, Canada. He wrote an interesting book called Life in the Fasting Lane. Okay, now this book here, it's all about fasting, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist out of Toronto, Canada, and he studies kidneys, and he found a relationship between insulin resistance and poor kidney health. He thought that if we could reverse the insulin resistance, that it would have a profound effect on the kidney. And so what did Dr. Fung do? Dr. Fung went to the work of Dr. Elliot Jocelyn, this guy up here, from more than a century ago. And this, I think, has always been just a powerful, powerful thing to think about. Dr. Fung went to the work of a man from more than 100 years ago, because this guy was onto something: strict glucose control and intermittent fasting. If you've heard of Dr. Fung, what Dr. Fung did to help his kidney patients was put them on a strict glucose control, low carb, high fat diet. That's keto. That's how he was strict glucose, was through a keto, and then a strict intermittent fasting schedule. And with those two things, and he stripped out no highly processed foods, no seed oils. Like, he was a very strict food plan. However, it was very, very, very effective. And Amanda, are you still listening to me? Amanda Baker. This book here, one of the co-authors in this book, first off, was a medical professional. That's always interesting to me. Medical professional. She not only had type 2 diabetes, but she had PCOS, and she was infertile, because infertility amongst women, the number one cause in the United States, is PCOS. One of the co-authors in this book not only reversed her type 2, but she reversed her PCOS, and she reversed her infertility. And if that's not amazing, in and of itself, okay? Let me see here. My interest just peaked by Doctor Discovered Diabetes. I'm listening to maybe later we can text. Absolutely, Nancy. If you have to leave, send me a message and we can absolutely have a conversation. Absolutely. Send me a direct message. Amanda Baker. There are two books I've talked about so far. The first book is Why We Get Sick by Dr. Ben Bikman. Benjamin Bikman, Ben Bikman, Why We Get Sick. Dr. Bikman is one of he's the world's leading metabolic scientist. This guy is a phenom. And interestingly enough, the book is forwarded by Dr. Jason Fung, the other guy I was talking about, okay? So Dr. Ben Bikman, Dr. Jason Fung. This book is by Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, and it's called Life in the Fasting Lane. Now, if you're curious, don't leave the live stream just yet. Don't leave just yet, because I have an affiliate link. If you're interested in using an affiliate link, in my bio, the link in my bio, there is an affiliate link to educational books. You can see every book that I recommend in there. You don't have to use my affiliate link, but if you're like rapidly jotting down names, I've got them all in there. Okay. And I would recommend them in the order that I have them in there. Life in the, great. Okay. So Why We Get Sick, Life in the Fasting Lane. I want to throw out one other one. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Dr. Mindy Pelz, but she is brilliant as well. Now, Dr. Mindy Pelz started looking at intermittent fasting with women. And so women have a different set of hormones than men. Your hormones are much more complex than a guy's. And consequently, the time of the month, depending on where you're at in your cycle, you should probably change your fasting. So Dr. Mindy Pelz wrote a book specifically about that. That book is called Fast Like a Girl. So that book, again, is also in that same educational books link that's in there, okay? Do you have a link to... Carrie says, I do. Carrie says, I was just reading that. Yes, I do. And same link in there. Okay, so, folks, I'm talking about a 3-step protocol to reverse type 2 diabetes. The first step of the 3 is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting. I am not keto. I'm not carnivore. I'm not vegetarian. I'm not vegan. I will say that I generally am pretty low carb now, only because I'm seeing the light. I really am seeing the light. And I love pizza. I love bread. I love pasta. I love all of the things that you love just the same. But having kind of converted for about a year now, I'm starting to really see the light. I feel my joints hurt after I have a lot of carbohydrates. The next day I hurt. My arthritis flares up after I've had a lot of carbs. They just aren't worth it to me. And so carbs really are a treat to me from time to time. I generally am pretty low carb, but I would say I'm more closely aligned with the Mediterranean meal plan. If that is of interest. So, Rustless, how are you? So I've been studying hormones for 15 years. For 1.5, that's right. Asked coach about fast like a girl, and she felt like. I think there is. Okay, so that's right. You are Amanda. You're type 1.5, right, Lotta? It was starving peeps instead of nourishment. There's a lot of research on there's a lot of research on intermittent fasting. Read these books. Okay, read these books. Start with reading those books. And you know what? It wouldn't hurt to give the doctors that I've named a follow. Dr. Ben Bickman, Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. Mindy Pelz, Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Andrew Huberman, Dr. Robert Lufkin. There's a lot of these doctors. If you're ever curious for some doctors to maybe follow, shoot me a message. Send me a direct message, and I'll tell you who I'm following. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. Amanda says, just looking for perspective. I respect your knowledge. Thank you. That's very kind words for you. Okay. Did I miss the talk on dark spots and skin tags? We haven't really talked about those specifically, but I'm getting ready to move in. For those that are listening, I'm getting ready to move into step 2. Okay. And there's only 3 steps, but I did just get asked. I've got a video on TikTok that's kind of popping, and it's talking about skin tags and the darkening or discoloration of the skin around your neck, armpit area, inner thighs. That darkening or discoloration is called acanthosis nigricans, and it is caused by insulin resistance, as are the skin tags, as is type 2 diabetes and type 3 diabetes. Does anybody know what type 3 diabetes is? This conversation is about reversing insulin resistance, and if you do that, and you do that well enough, that darkening or discoloration kind of goes away. Those skin tags kind of go away. The type 2 diabetes, for me, kind of went away. So step 1 of the protocol that I'm laying out, a 3-step protocol, is intermittent fasting, a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. Okay? I'm diabetic for several years, can't really fast taking metformin. Nancy, I did. That's all I'm going to say. I did. I did. To me, the idea of not taking metformin was so worth it, and I don't take metformin at all, and I love it. Okay, Amanda says cherry adenomas, can they go away? I'm not familiar with that. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with those, Amanda, and I will never make up an answer on the spot. Send me a direct message, and I will definitely look into them. Okay. So also to that point, we have a great live stream coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. You watch it where you're watching me from right now. It will be exactly where you're watching me from right now. I'll be live again, and it will be, we'll have medical professionals in there with some amazing testimonials, but medical professionals that you can ask questions to. So stuff like that, if you wanted to, just come back at 8 p.m. Eastern and watch the live. It'll be 1 hour live stream. Okay, I'm going to move into step 2. Yes, send me a message to remember. Oh, look at that. Balloons. Step 2, balloons. Step 2 of the protocol. I guess first off, are we ready for step 2? If you're ready for step 2, type ready. And if you're not, ask questions. Ask me questions. Let's do that. Or are we ready? If you're ready for step 2, type ready. I feel like, Nancy, here's the deal. I feel like metformin made me sick. Nancy says it will make you sick to your stomach, so eat something good for diabetes. I feel like metformin made me sick to my stomach. Is being gluten-free helpful? I don't know that I buy into the gluten-free thing. I think we've got unhealthy guts. I think there are some connections between your thyroids and gluten. I think there is a connection there. But I think the gluten-free thing is probably a little bigger than it needs to be. I think it really revolves around that upset stomach. Truthfully, some people are gluten intolerance, right? That's the term. I had a problem with dairy. A lot of people have problems with dairy. Man, I would get upset stomach if I had ice cream. I always blamed the milk. I never blamed the sugar, right? I never blamed the sugar. So as I've gotten my gut healthy, guess what? Those dairy problems have gone away. Irritable bowel syndrome has gone away. I don't have any problem fasting and taking metformin. Andrew says, I don't have any problem fasting and taking metformin. Right, Andy? It's a challenge to get going. Personally, I felt like the metformin upset my stomach. And I'm really just telling my story here, okay? So we got a lot of people saying they are ready. Okay. Step 2 of the protocol is consuming more chlorogenic acid. Now, what is chlorogenic acid? Chlorogenic acid is a naturally occurring polyphenol. In fact, it's one of the most abundant polyphenols on Earth. And there are so many benefits associated with chlorogenic acid consumption. So many benefits. And as I dive into them, you're probably going to say, wow, I didn't know that. But just in a nutshell, real quick, as I'm diving into this, let's talk about yerba mate tea. I don't know if anybody's familiar with yerba mate tea, but yerba mate tea has been widely consumed in South America for about 1,000 years, 500 to 1,000 years. It's been pretty heavily industrialized in North America for about the last 120. Now, the indigenous people of the regions of South America that are now Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay were consuming yerba mate tea. And they would say that yerba mate made them feel full. It gave them an amazing boost of energy. They referred to it as the drink of the gods. In fact, I believe, and I'm not positive of this, but I believe yerba mate is still the national drink of Argentina. It's like a big deal. It's one of the most widely consumed drinks in South America. Now, what was it about yerba mate that gave those indigenous people those amazing feelings of appetite suppression, the boost of energy? We know now through science it was chlorogenic acid. Now, chlorogenic acid does a lot of good things for us, including regulate blood pressure. Chlorogenic acid has been scientifically proven to regulate your blood pressure, to help lower your blood pressure. How many people would like a little help with their blood pressure? Chlorogenic acid, it's been shown to help with lipids metabolism, cholesterol issues, right? Chlorogenic acid has been shown to aid in weight loss, to help suppress appetites, to promote insulin sensitivity. A big one that's on the topic right now is GLP-1, right? Glucagon-like peptide 1. Maybe you've heard of this before. GLP-1. What is GLP-1? Our bodies produce an incretin hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, GLP-1. Now, what they know through science is that when GLP-1 levels are elevated, glucose and insulin are suppressed. When GLP-1 levels are elevated, the fat cell shrinks. When GLP-1 levels are elevated, the stomach dumping slows. That's kind of a big deal. When GLP-1 is elevated, our appetites are suppressed. There are all sorts of benefits to elevating GLP-1. Well, historically, we've eaten foods that have chlorogenic acid in them, and that chlorogenic acid kind of brings those levels up for us. Today, we're not eating those quality foods, and so our GLP-1 levels are down. They're more down than they are up. So there's a whole class of medications now called GLP-1 receptor agonists that target GLP-1 production. Things like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Trulicity, Saxenda, Wegovy, Rybelsus. These are what they call GLP-1 receptor agonists. They're trying to get your body to produce more GLP-1. Now, what I would suggest is what if we just start eating the foods that our bodies were intended to increase GLP-1? Well, that's chlorogenic acid. So let's go here. I'm going to say here, let me share this screen here. Go to Google and ask Google what food has the most chlorogenic acid. Well, and it'll give you a little write-up here. There's a lot of hits. There's 1.96 million results with that search alone. But chlorogenic acid is a natural antioxidant found in a variety of fruits and vegetables. Studies have shown that consuming foods high in chlorogenic acid can help reduce the risk of developing cancer. Foods high in chlorogenic acid include black coffee, apples. Here's the deal. Chlorogenic acid is one of the most abundant polyphenols on Earth. We can find it in certain fruits, certain vegetables, certain nuts, seeds, green tea, black coffee. A green coffee bean is the most abundant source on Earth. Yerba mate is extremely high in chlorogenic acid. Again, we're eating foods that do this for us, okay? So what I want to do is dive through some of the research that revolves around chlorogenic acid consumption, and understanding that a green coffee bean is one of the most abundant sources for it on Earth. A lot of the research revolves around coffee, but if you don't like coffee, yerba mate tea is an excellent substitute. Apples, pears, certain vegetables, nuts, seeds, it's available all over the place. But as I go through some of this research, just know I'm going to be talking a lot about coffee because it's one of the most abundant resources. So with that being said, we got quite a few listeners right now. Oh, dang it. Screen's a little illegible. I apologize. Okay. How many listeners right now have a problem with blood pressure? You're taking medication for blood pressure. If you do, then type I do, or me. Type me. This study right here, the effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. Chlorogenic acid, what does it do with blood pressure? And this, by the way, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials, that is the gold bar for research, okay? And they come down, they conclude, in conclusion, the evidence from published randomized clinical trials suggests that chlorogenic acid intake causes statistically significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressure. We have proof that chlorogenic acid lowers blood pressure, right? Just like that. And again, let's come back to Google. Chlorogenic acid is available in black coffee, apples. You can Google what are good sources of chlorogenic acid. By the way, I didn't mention, but this study of chlorogenic acid, I found this on PubMed. That's nih.gov. It's an official website of the United States government. I'm not going to some trash tabloid or something like that to get this. I got it from nih.gov, PubMed. So this study I found on PubMed, chlorogenic acid improves glucose tolerance, lipid metabolism, inflammation, and microbiota composition in diabetic mice. Think about all of the things right there that it's saying are improved with chlorogenic acid. Glucose tolerance. How many of us need to improve our glucose tolerance? Lipids metabolism. Most of America, right? Inflammation. How many of you have a problem with inflammation? Right? Chlorogenic acid is anti-inflammatory. If you have a problem with inflammation, guess what? Chlorogenic acid. And they would go on to say in the results showed that chlorogenic acid decreased body weight, so it aided in weight loss, and improved glucose tolerance and insulin resistance. And these effects were similar to those of metformin. Think about the power in that statement. These effects were similar to those of metformin. Now, this study here kind of just builds on that from PubMed Central this time. And this is a review, roles of chlorogenic acid on regulating glucose and lipids metabolism. Again, and this one, they go into a little bit more detail with, so for example, it is reported that daily consumption of 3 to 4 cups of decaffeinated coffee containing high contents of chlorogenic acid significantly reduced the risk for type 2 diabetes by 30%. Think about the magnitude of that statement right there. 3 to 4 cups of decaf coffee per day reduces your risk significantly by 30% of developing type 2 diabetes. That is powerful. Chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer that potentiates insulin action similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. There's that statement again, similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. Now, how many of you are on a GLP-1, something like Ozempic or Wegovy, Mounjaro, something like that, Zepbound, Trulicity, Saxenda, Rybelsus? How many of you are on one of those? This study I found on PubMed, and this one's quite old, 2005. A chlorogenic acid-induced increase in GLP-1 production may mediate the impact of heavy coffee consumption on diabetes risk. Indeed, there is recent evidence that coffee increases production of the incretin hormone glucagon-like peptide 1. You're injecting yourself with something that can be done all naturally. Right? If you already have diabetes, just start consuming more chlorogenic acid. Just start consuming. Now, what do we do to our coffee? As a society, what do we do to our coffee that completely negates the positive effects of chlorogenic acid, right? There is one thing that the vast majority of us do that completely negates all the positives that we would get from the chlorogenic acid: sugar and cream. Okay? Drink your coffee black. And some people are like, man, I can't drink black coffee. It tastes gross. Well, I don't want to have diabetes. So I would rather drink something. It starts tasting really sweet when you know that it has a positive effect on your diabetes. To me, it did anyway. Okay? Now, who has heard of Dr. Andrew Huberman? Has anybody heard of this guy, Dr. Andrew Huberman? Dr. Huberman, this is his profile on Stanford Medicine. This is med.stanford.edu. Andrew Huberman is an associate professor of neurobiology at Stanford. This guy is really smart, like associate professor of neurobiology. Dr. Huberman, I like to go down to his professional education. He received his bachelor's from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He received his master's from the University of California, Berkeley. He received his PhD from the University of Cal Davis. And then his postdoctorate came from Stanford University in neuroscience. This dude is smart, really smart. Now, why do I talk about Dr. Huberman? Why do I talk about this guy? Well, this is Dr. Huberman talking about yerba mate tea and GLP-1. Ready?
In South America, was looking at Gila monsters, those really scary
Whoa.
things. And he realized they don't have to eat very often. I wonder if they're hungry all the time or not. Turns out it takes their blood, isolates a peptide, which turns out to be GLP-1, puts it into other animals, and realizes it suppresses appetite. Amazing, right? Like this is what I love about biology. Some dude who studies Gila monsters. Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea, certain
Yerba mate tea. Dr. Andrew Huberman is telling you GLP-1 is stimulated by yerba mate tea. How about that? How interesting? Is that interesting to anybody? And that, by the way, is a very, very, very intelligent man. So do we see the benefits of increasing our chlorogenic acid? And again, go to Google and ask Google, what are the best sources for chlorogenic acid? Okay, it'll tell you certain fruits, certain nuts, certain vegetables, certain seeds, green tea, black tea, yerba mate tea is a wonderful one. Black coffee. Okay. Guys, I do want to talk. I oftentimes get asked about a supplement. I want to talk about a supplement that I take. But I am never, ever, ever suggesting that anybody ever has to buy a supplement, okay? I do want to talk about a supplement, and I want to tell you why I choose this particular supplement If you decide you want to look into more of it, just let me know and I'll tell you more about it at the end of the live stream. But I want to talk about this particular supplement, and it is a yerba mate extract. So the company, what they do is they buy the yerba leaf from the original farmers in South America. They're still buying them from the original farmers. And they're still fire roasting that yerba leaf in a very similar way to the way that it's always been done. But after fire roasting, they kind of stop the traditional process and they extract the good things that we want. Things like chlorogenic acid and theobromine and a number of other good things that we want out of the yerba mate. Then they take that extracted product and they cleanse it. They purify it. It goes through a hyper purification process and they get rid of the things that we don't want, the things like pesticides and heavy metals, and then they concentrate it. This particular tea, this particular tea, this yerba mate extract is extremely concentrated in chlorogenic acid. In fact, it's got about 10 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of coffee, about 20 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of yerba mate. So very, very high in concentration. And I want to point out this guy here. I've talked about Dr. Ben Bikman quite a bit today. I talked about his book, Why We Get Sick. Dr. Bikman has now done multiple research studies on that particular yerba mate supplement, the one I'm talking about. Now, Dr. Bikman, in one of them, I can show you one of them right here. Let me see. This is one of them. Yerba mate extract. Yerba mate supplement exerts beneficial tissue-specific effects on mitochondrial efficiency and redox status in healthy adult mice. Dr. Ben Bikman. So this is one of the two that he's done on it. Now, the second one he's actually publishing right now. That one was published. The second one he's publishing right now, he's shown that it increases that supplement that I take increases GLP-1 production by up to 70% during a fasted state. Up to 70% during a fasted state. It is wickedly powerful, that statement by itself. Now, that particular research paper has not been published yet, so I can't show you that, and it would bother me to talk about it, but I do have a video clip of Dr. Bikman specifically saying those words. In fact, that's a quote. It increases GLP-1 production by up to 70% during a fasted state. I've got Dr. Bikman on video saying those words. So if you'd like to see that, I can certainly show you that. But that supplement that I take, so what it does, it really helps me in the morning with my fast. It helps extend the fast. It makes fasting easy. That food noise that we get is gone. Brain fog is lifted. I don't have the brain fog. How many of you walk into a room and you feel lost? Like, what did I just come into here for? I forgot already. Or you're talking to somebody and you lose your train of thought, right? That brain fog, that thing is kind of gone. An amazing boost of energy. It is promoting my insulin sensitivity. It's increasing my GLP-1. So when I say I use that supplement, that's why. It's got a lot of science behind it. So with that being said, step 3. Who's ready for step 3? If you're ready for step 3, type ready. And by the way, there's only 3 steps. So we're basically at the end. Anybody ready for step 3? Amanda Baker says go. Sheila says ready. Quiet. Marco. Hey, welcome back, Marco. Brooks says ready. Okay. Step 3 of the protocol is increasing our fiber. I found this study on PubMed Central. This was done in 2007, closing America's fiber gap. In this study, I like the first sentence. The first sentence is pretty powerful. Adequate intake of dietary fiber is associated with digestive health and reduced risk of heart disease, stroke, hypertension, certain gastrointestinal disorders, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers. I think that's a wickedly powerful statement. That's just in the abstract of this paper. But That is a pretty wickedly powerful statement, okay? Now, they would go on to say, however, national consumption surveys indicate that only about 5% of the population meets recommendations, and inadequate intakes have been called a public health concern. Boom, okay? And they would go on to say why. This is actually a fascinating research paper, but they talk about how much you're supposed to take in per day. Children ages 1 to 3 should be taking in 19 grams of fiber. 4 to 8, 25 grams of fiber. A female 9 to 13 should be getting 26 grams. 14 to 18 should be 26 grams. 19 to 50 years old should be getting 25, and over 50 should be getting 21. A male 9 to 13 should be getting 31 grams per day. Between 14 and 50 should be getting 38 grams, and over 50 should be getting 30. And in here, it did say what they felt we were getting, and it was ridiculous. I think it was 15 grams was what they were suggesting. There we go. 15.1 grams per day is what we're getting. So we are falling very, very, very short. So step 3 of the protocol is increasing our daily fiber. Choo-choo. The system is amazing. It really works. Thank you, Choo-choo. I appreciate that. That is awesome. I love the validation, by the way. I love the validation from people who are doing this. Okay, so let's dive into fiber. Why does fiber help that? Why does fiber help that? There are 2 kind of categories of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble fiber. And when we have an adequate amount of both, we naturally regulate our glucose. Our bodies naturally regulate its glucose. And that's key, because right now, so many people listening to me even are using a chemical, something like metformin, to help them regulate their glucose, right? They're not doing it on their own. 95% of us aren't getting an adequate amount of fiber, and 88% of us, per that other study, are insulin resistant. And actually, Dr. Mark Hyman is now quoting a study that says 93.4%. However you slice and dice this, it's a problem. This is a problem. Now, why aren't we getting our adequate amount of fiber? And it's absolutely due to the foods that we eat, the over-processed foods. Okay, if you go into a grocery store and you look at the processed foods, they are devoid of fiber. And again, step 2 of the protocol was consuming more chlorogenic acid, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, teas, coffees, right? Why aren't we eating enough of those anymore? Because we're eating highly processed foods. So step 3 kind of ties into the same thing, overly processed foods. Now, why would the food manufacturers remove the fiber from our diet, from our foods? Absolutely, absolutely a business decision. If it doesn't make sense, it makes dollars. A good friend of mine says that all the time. A vet says that all the time. If it doesn't make sense, it makes dollars. So why would the food industry remove the fiber from our diet? Well, they would do it because fiber is satiating. It makes you feel full. If you are in the business of selling lots and lots and lots of food, do you want your customers full, or do you want them hungry? It's a business decision. Also, fiber spoils. An avocado has about 15 grams of fiber, 14 to 15 grams of fiber. That's the national average for fiber consumption right now, about the same. About 1 avocado worth of fiber is what we're getting per day. What's the shelf life of an avocado? It's ridiculously short. 3 days, a week. Like, it seems like you buy them and they turn black in no time and you got to throw them away. If you're in the business of buying and selling food, do you want to buy stuff that you have to throw away? Or do you want stuff that you can put on a shelf for years on end? So again, it's a business decision. Now, what are we buying? Those foods. We're buying foods that come in boxes, bags, barcodes. Dr. Bickman, I've now heard Dr. Hyman say the same thing. If the food comes in a box or a bag and has a barcode, it is probably highly processed. Not good for us. Okay, so avoid those. How much fiber for the ages? Male, female, again, writing it down. Amanda, great question. Let me go to it. You know what I can do, Amanda, is take this down. It'll be easier for you to just take the PubMed ID down. Write down PMID, PubMed ID, PMID 30202317. That's the actual study that I grabbed that from. 2317, 30202317. In there, you'll find that chart. Okay? Okay. Okay, so now, why does fiber help our bodies naturally? You're welcome. There you go, Amanda. Okay, so why does fiber help our bodies naturally regulate its glucose? There are two categories of fiber. There is a soluble fiber and an insoluble fiber. Now, soluble fiber dissolves in water, while insoluble fiber does not. So soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, my favorite example of insoluble fiber right now, and I've been talking about it for about a month, so I need to come up with a new one, but this one really just is easy. It's quinoa. Are you familiar with quinoa? Quinoa. Quinoa. Now, quinoa does not dissolve in water. As in, when it's a whole grain, you boil it to tenderness, right? We like to add some chicken stock and maybe some seasonings to it while it's boiling, and then add a pat of butter to it when we serve it. And it has a very unique look when you're eating it. Well, it has the same unique look the next day when you poop it out. It looks identical. Now, what does quinoa do? It goes through your gut tract kind of like a scrub brush. It's just sitting there scrubbing all of that stuff out of you and getting rid of the stuff that we don't need. Very, very important. The things that we don't need. Now, think about this. If you've got stuff in there and you've got none of the insoluble fiber, your body's going to absorb that in time. You don't need it. So your body's, we don't need it. Now, soluble fiber does dissolve in water. Soluble fiber kind of forms this thick, sticky, gooey kind of matrix, and it coats your gut tract. And what it does is really slows down your body's ability to process the carbohydrates that are incoming, right? So, for example, let's talk about a slice of white bread. There's something called the glycemic index, which I'll get into in a moment here. But the glycemic index ranks foods on a scale of 0 to 100, depending on how they're going to affect your blood sugar level. And white bread is a 100. It's the top of the scale. White bread has no fiber. So when you consume it, your body converts that to glucose right away. Now, what happens when we get a quick high glucose spike. And when you get that, what does that do to your insulin? Quick high insulin response. We don't want that, right? The idea is to keep your insulin levels low. So what's the solution? Slow down that ability to process it. Well, there's where soluble fiber plays. It slows down your body's ability to process it. And so instead of getting a quick high glucose spike, we get a slow gradual climb. And what does that do to our insulin? Insulin is suppressed as well. This is key. All three of these steps have been talking about promoting insulin sensitivity, insulin lowering strategies, right? That's the entire goal. Well, this is how we do it. Keep those insulin levels suppressed. And as we do that, we will start to promote more and more and more insulin sensitivity and reverse more and more and more of our existing resistance. And guess what? When you do that, you'll start to see things fall, like type 2 diabetes. The side effect of doing this is your love handles will melt away. It's a side effect, okay? We're not talking about a program specifically addressed at any of the symptoms. It's the root cause that we're attacking. And when we attack the root cause, all of the symptoms get better. So, where are great sources? I've said to stay away from the highly processed foods, things that come in boxes, bags, barcodes, stay away from those. Go over to the produce section of your grocery store. The produce section is an excellent place to get a wide variety of fiber, variety of fiber. Keep that in mind. We don't want just one type. We need a wide variety because each one of them kind of does something unique for our bodies. So go over to the fruit section and get a wide variety of fruits. At the fruit counter, stick to skin on. So things like apples, strawberries, bananas, oranges. The exception to this is, of course, avocados. Eat as many avocados as you can in a day. They're wonderful for you. But get a wide variety of skin on fruits. We're going to avoid the tropical style skin off fruits. So things like bananas and oranges and that sort of thing. What happens if you're a type 2 diabetic? I know not everybody listening to me is a type 2, but if you are, what happens? Put in the comment, what happens to your glucose if you eat an orange or a banana? You get a spike, right? So minimize those fruits. We don't want to spike our glucose. So go over to the vegetable section and get a wide variety of vegetables. Get a wide variety of the leafy ones, get a wide variety of the cruciferous ones. And oftentimes I say that statement and I don't say what it is. So cruciferous, broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, get a wide variety of those. All of them have their own different type of fiber, and all of them are going to help your body naturally regulate its glucose. When you're in the vegetable section, we're going to stick to above ground, less starchy. The potato thing, guys, we got to quit with the potatoes. We have potatoes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There is virtually no fiber in a cooked potato, and they're high in the glycemic index, which again I'll get to in a moment here. They are causing our glucose to spike high and fast. And what does that do to our insulin? Boom. We don't want that. So minimize below ground starchy vegetables, okay? Now, carrots are below ground and they're starchy. Eat them raw. When you cook them, they change in the glycemic index. But by and large, avoid the below ground starchy vegetables. Should we stay away from frozen food because of them in a bag with a barcode? Great question, Marco. Just read the ingredients, okay? If it's just frozen blueberries, if it's just frozen broccoli, no problem, right? But if there's all sorts of other stuff in there that you can't pronounce the word, leave it behind, okay? I hope that answers that, Marco. That's a great question. I actually just heard Dr. Mark Hyman talk about that. In fact, I posted that to one of my social media platforms. It's Dr. Mark Hyman talking about that. If you can't pronounce the word, it's probably not good for you. Cauliflower rice. We go through a lot of cauliflower rice here. It's a wonderful substitute. And you can do a lot of stuff with it. My wife is now making a cauliflower risotto. Oh, so good. Okay. Are there any questions about step 3, which is increasing your fiber, avoiding highly processed foods, eating out of the produce section, getting a wide variety in the fruit section, a wide variety of skin on, less sweet, less tropical, right? So, and then going over to the vegetable section and getting a wide variety of vegetables and avoiding the below ground starchy vegetables. Is there any questions about this? Or I do have a supplement that I want to talk about here as well. But just like the tea, I don't want to suggest that anybody ever has to buy anything. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask your questions. Or if you're ready for the supplement, type the word ready, and I'll know that you're ready for me to talk about the supplement that I use here. What about mangoes? Skin off, right? So chia seeds, they are wonderful. I don't have a problem at all with chia seeds. Sheila says she is ready. Sheila, I'm stalling just a moment for Amanda's question. She says, so chia seeds question incoming. There's a question incoming here. Can I just consume my chia seeds in fiber daily? Yeah, as in you want that to be your only source for fiber, Amanda? If that's your question, then no. You want a wide variety of fiber. Okay? Those are an excellent source of fiber. Excellent source of fiber, but we need more. We don't need just one. We need a blend, okay? So I'm not totally sure what that question is, but it sounds like you're wanting to know if that can be a single source. And no, we want to get a wide variety. Okay. Okay. Flax seeds, wonderful. Someday that's all I have time for. And that's why we're sick, Amanda. Because we're putting a work schedule in front of our health, right? Now here's something. This is just getting philosophical right now, and I'm not good at that, but I'm going to throw this out there anyway, okay? How many of us work long hours for not enough pay so that we can afford our way of life that isn't that good? And to keep that pace that isn't something that we like, we eat horrible foods that then cut our life short. Does that resonate with anybody? If that resonates with anybody, just type the word resonate, right? We're working long, awful hours for a job that doesn't pay us what we're worth. And we're to sustain that pace, we're eating foods on the go that are awful for us, that are cutting our lifespan short, making us metabolically unhealthy, and then we're teaching our kids how to do the same thing, right? Stop it. Stop it. There are other solutions. There are other alternatives. Okay? Okay. So I want to talk about the supplement that I take. I think I got the people were saying ready. I think I've answered Amanda's question. Okay. Who remembers Rexall Pharmacy? If you remember Rexall Pharmacy, type I do. I'm curious how many people remember Rexall Pharmacy. Rexall Pharmacy is about 120 years old. They got a really, really interesting story. In 1902, the turn of the century, 1900, there weren't really pharmacies. There were drugstores. There were not. Brandon, what's up, buddy? Is this my Brandon from barbecue? Chef Brandon? I see a Brandon D. Spies in my live stream. Is this my Chef Brandon, buddy? What's up, brother? How are you? Guys, for those of you who don't know, I was a competitive barbecue cook for a long time. And I met Brandon D. Spies in the comments section on that tour. Great guy, a private chef in the Denver metro area. If you are looking for some cooking inspiration or potentially hiring a private chef, I would suggest you give that guy a follow. He's a great guy, wonderful dude, an amazing chef. And I know personally because I've known him for a number of years. We need to meet up soon. Love what you're doing. Love what you're doing, brother. I would love to talk to you about it, Brandon. Okay. What about sunflower seeds and the shell? You know what? I honestly haven't looked at the fiber content of those. I don't know. I will tell you that a lot of times roasted products, like you go and get your peanuts. You get a can of peanuts, right? And it's like, hey, these are good for me. And then you look at them and they're roasted in like a sunflower oil or a canola oil or a vegetable oil. The seed oils are awful for us. We don't want those. So be careful. Read the ingredients. Okay. Rexall Pharmacy. Now, 120 years ago, the turn of the century, 1900, there weren't really any pharmacies. There were drugstores, and there weren't pharmacists. There were druggists. And they didn't need formal education. They didn't have to go to college for it. And they mixed things into concoctions that we would today say, what? You gave that to somebody? Well, we've heard of these things, right? The original formula for Coca-Cola, like things like that. Were what they were messing with to help people get healthy, right? And some of those worked well, and some of them were awful. Awful. And really, because there was no formal education, the recipes changed from town to town by what the druggist was. Well, there was one druggist who was really good. And Regis was her name, and I can't recall her last name. So I'm just going to go with Regis. And then there was a businessman. And the businessman thought, hey, what if we could standardize things in all of these different drugstores? What if we could build something there? And so he went and got the best druggist, Regis, and went to 40 different drugstores and offered them a co-op of sorts, $4,000, 40 different stores, and they would get her recipes in all of them. Rexall Pharmacy was born. Now, Rexall really was the first company to standardize the products on the shelves. Fascinating. And they would grow. They were huge. At their peak, there were about 11,600 Rexall pharmacies throughout North America. For reference, for frame of reference, there are about 13,000 McDonald's right now. They were huge. So about as frequently as you'd see a McDonald's now, you would have seen a Rexall in its heyday. Now, in the United States, Rexall got somewhat buckled by the corporate America, the Walgreens, the CVS, and those types of guys. However, they are still pretty prominent in Canada. They still are scattered here and there throughout the States. You might find their products at like Dollar General and that sort of thing. But in the 80s, Rexall Pharmacy thought there was something to supplementation. And they started looking at fiber supplementation. They also thought that our foods were becoming less and less and less nutritious, which again, we know to be true. And so they thought there was something to vitamin supplementation. So what Rexall Pharmacy did was went out and developed a blend of fiber. They put 7 different types of fiber into a product, and they thought that vitamin supplementation was necessary as well, so they added a multivitamin to it. So it's got 7 different types of fiber and a vitamin complex to go alongside of it. And that little blend right there is really what makes their product so incredibly unique. So what they did, they thought that this product would help lower blood pressure, would help lower cholesterol, help people lose weight. And then it did, and it did wonderfully. But then they found out that people's A1C started dropping. And that kind of opened up Pandora's box as far as researching this particular blend from Rexall. They call it a fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. Fiber, multivitamin combination therapy. Today, there are 5 different patents on that blend of fiber. Think about that. A blend of fiber that has 5 separate patents on it. That blend of fiber has been studied all over the world. In fact, there are more than a dozen clinical validation studies that have been done on it by places like UNLV, BYU, Stanford, but some more prominent places like the Cleveland Clinic. Now, the Cleveland Clinic is America's top heart hospital. It's the top heart hospital in the United States, widely perceived to be. In fact, it's one of the top heart hospitals in the world. It's also been studied at the University of Sydney, Australia. Now, I was talking about the glycemic index earlier, a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being foods that cause your blood sugar to spike high and fast, 0 being the exact opposite. 0 doesn't do anything to your to your blood sugar. Now, the home of the glycemic index, in fact, if you type glycemicindex.com, it will take you to the University of Sydney, Australia. The International Glycemic Index and website are maintained at the University of Sydney, Australia, and led by Professor Jenny Brand Miller. Professor Jenny Brand Miller has been published more than 250 times throughout her professional career. She is an absolute powerhouse in the conversation of glucose regulation, glycemic, insulin. This is what she does. The glycemic index, the insulin index, this is what she does. Now, Dr. Jenny Brand Miller has also studied that blend of fiber from Rexall Pharmacy. Now, in summary, and actually here are the studies. Let me bring up one page here. This one right here, fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. That's what I said it was, right? Fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. This was performed at the from the preventative cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic, submitted November 15, 2001, and accepted February 14 of 2002. How many people are listening to me right now that have a cholesterol problem? You're on a lipids lowering product, something like atorvastatin or rosuvastatin or simvastatin. Maybe you're getting some muscle cramps from that. Maybe you're having some side effects that you're not really happy with on that. There's another side effect of those, and that is called diabetes. They have a side effect, an adverse reaction. Go to the physician's desk reference, and you'll see they have an adverse reaction of diabetes mellitus. There is a lot of study, a lot of research done on them to show that they do cause diabetes. Now, with that being said, this study right here, performed by the top heart hospital in the United States, showed that that blend of fiber from Rexall lowered LDL cholesterol, lowered total cholesterol, lowered triglycerides, it lowered overall body weight, glucose, ApoB. It improved every category they tested it against. And they would go on to conclude such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. Now, the top heart hospital in the U.S. was suggesting more than 20 years ago that that little blend of fiber from Rexall Pharmacy could replace a statin. Think about the magnitude of that. Plant-based, all natural, no side effects, just what your body needs, fiber, vitamins, no side effects. Now, in the last, people coming off of cholesterol medications at their doctor's direction. Now, I talked about what is the home of the glycemic index. If you go to glycemicindex.com, it takes you to the University of Sydney, Australia. And if you hit the About page there, it will talk about her. Professor Jenny Brand-Miller. She's an internationally recognized authority on carbohydrates and the glycemic index with over 250 scientific publications. Why do I talk about her? Because in this study, Dr. Jenny Brand-Miller tested that blend of fiber against white bread, white rice, and potato. And in each case, those are all high in the glycemic index. In each case, it lowered the glycemic index for all of them from high to medium. It also lowered the insulin index, which is what we want to do. It lowered overall blood glucose by 20 to 28% and blood insulin by 13 to 27%. That is the work of that lady, Dr. Jenny Brand-Miller. So with that being said, when I take this product, it's backed by the Cleveland Clinic, the University of Sydney, Australia. It is in the physician's desk reference, the PDR. Your doctor can look it up in his or hers trusted book. This is what they go by. They trust the PDR. It's in there. Your doctor can look it up. No side effects, plant-based. And then finally, this guy. This guy here, Dr. Ben Bickman, professor of cell biology and physiology at BYU, the world's leading metabolic scientist. That guy is the director of the scientific advisory board for that company. It is, it's backed by clinical validation, scientific validation. There is a ton of social validation, like myself. I've reversed type 2 diabetes taking it. There are a ton of other people who would say the same. In fact, if you are on the product, would you be so kind as to type I am? You know what? If you're on the product and you're in the comments section right now, would you just type a real quick blurb, how long you've been on it and what it's done for you in the time that you've been on it? And with that being said, right quick, and then I'll wrap up this talk about the product. It costs $159 in the United States. It's available in over 50 countries globally. The company offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not satisfied for any reason after 90 days, ask for a refund. They'll give you all your money back. What they are willing to bet you is that you see a reduction in your glucose. You will see a reduction in your A1C. You will see a reduction in your cholesterol. You will see a reduction in your body weight, your blood pressure. They're guaranteeing that. If you're not happy with it, ask for a refund. Okay, so if anybody is interested in how to purchase that, just type the word I am in the comment section. It looks like my comments went out. They are not working for me. on my, so I've got my phone on my side here. Okay. Let's see. Brooks says, I am, and it works. Just like that. Brooks says, Carrie says, I am. Sheila Peterson, Amanda, I'll get to you, Shamita. Amanda says, per month, it's 159. I hope that answers your question. Brooks says, been on it since December, no longer taking metformin and other meds. How wonderful is that? Robin's at 5 days on it. Henry says, 11 months, down 95 pounds. Wow, that's awesome. And blood pressure is 117/77. I mean, the weight loss is amazing. The blood pressure, 117/77. Think about that. I'm interested very much. Okay, Sheila, I got you. Edward says, 5 months I've been on it. Lost 45 pounds and lowered my A1C. I mean, this is wonderful. It is $159 per month, Amanda. It is $159 per month. Okay, so if you're interested in buying it, you buy it from the manufacturer. If you like the information that I provide, then you'd use my referral code to the manufacturer, and that is available in the link in my bio. Okay, so there is a link in my bio. Go to that link, and I will show you here. I'm going to show you my link on TikTok. Let me see here. First off, I guess I should ask the question, do you know how to get to my bio? Do you know how to get to my bio? My homepage, if you will, on TikTok. On all of my social media pages, in fact, all of them, I've got a link in my bio. Okay? Now, with that being said, up top, okay, Sheila says no. I got you, Amanda. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so Sheila, this is my live stream right now on my personal phone. I'm playing it on my personal phone. Okay, you can see this screen, right, Sheila? You able to see this, Sheila? Now, on here, there will be a picture of me up top. This picture of me up here, then it says the Healthy Pitmaster right next to it. When you tap that picture of me, it will bring up a menu across the middle. Okay, that menu right there. If you tap that profile picture again, that will put you at my homepage. Now, on my homepage, there is a link. It says Linktree/The Healthy Pitmaster. Click that link. When you click that link, that will take you to the product. Okay, the very first link in there. By the way, guys, I am talking about Field Grade System. I do want to point out it is available on places like Amazon. It is not authorized for sale at Amazon. Don't buy it there, guys. It's not authorized for sale by the manufacturer. You're going to overpay. You will not get a 90-day money-back guarantee. In fact, this right here, it's $240, $220, $260, right? So, I mean, heck, just the balance is 170. Just the T is 122. The entire system is 159 through the link in my bio, and that's the manufacturer. You're buying it from the manufacturer, so don't go through here. Okay, what questions do you have, if any, for me? Amanda, I see you there. Okay. I wonder if there's ever a point that you can stop taking this. Okay, Amanda, I got you. Yes. Amanda, great question. Amanda asked the question, is there ever a point when you can stop taking this? Of course. In fact, I would argue that you never, ever needed it, right? If you would have just been eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and drinking tea instead of soda and drinking coffee instead of soda, if we would have been eating all of the things that we should have been eating all along, you wouldn't need it at all. Also, if we were intermittent fasting, if we were on a more primal schedule for eating, you wouldn't need it at all. You don't need it right now, right? This is just a tool to help you navigate today's food industry. Today's food industry is not doing you any favors at all. And so this is just a tool designed to help you kind of navigate that. Should you try and eat better? Absolutely. You should absolutely try and avoid the things that are actively making you sicker. If you get to where you want to get to on this, stop taking it. There's nothing addictive in it at all. However, you'll want to make a more drastic change to your food so that you don't get sick again. I hope that answered your question. And I see question ... I just learned on a TikTok video what that ... was. Has everybody seen that video? That's pretty funny. It's a pretty dang funny video. A millennial saying, why is all the Gen X people using ... Question. What questions have you all got, if any? Ask questions about product, what I eat, what my fasting schedule. Ask anything. I'm a wide open book, guys. I answer just about every question. And I hope you've gotten value from this as well. Also, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, come back to wherever you're watching me from right now. Wherever you're watching me from at 8 p.m. Eastern, okay? We're going to do a live stream where we'll have a good friend of mine named Trent who goes into great detail about, the science behind this and how to use it. Trent he always brings in some wonderful people for testimonials. People have had some really inspiring stories on it. And then he always brings in a medical professional, somebody like a physician's assistant, neurosurgeons, endocrinologists, nurses, dietitians. He brings in somebody from the medical field to kind of describe why the system works from a medical standpoint. And then more than that, you get the ability to ask inner questions. You can interact with them. There's about a 10-minute window there. Trent tries to keep it to 60 minutes, so we're not getting very long-winded there. But come back and check that out. 8 p.m. Eastern, wherever you're watching me from right now, come back at 8 p.m. Eastern and check it out. Okay, so let me see. If you could predict a long-term order, how many months worth should I purchase if I wanted to do it all at once? Amanda, I would love to have you connect with me directly. Are you okay with that? Maybe send me a direct message and then we can try one of these. Are you okay with doing a call? Do you trust me enough to get on a call with me? Okay, send me a direct message if you don't mind with your number and I will call you. I've got a lot of calls to make. I've been saying that a lot lately and I am really behind, so I've got to make a few calls before, but I will definitely reach out to you today if that's okay. Okay, so let's see. Blenda, you'll want to never end. It's awesome for health and it's cost neutral. If you're not giving Blenda Healthy Life a follow, do. Follow Blenda Healthy Life. She is amazing, an amazing journey down. Oh, what was the number, Blenda? 140 pounds, I believe. Off of all of her medications at 67 years old, feels like a 35-year-old again. Was so happy, so proud of Blenda. And I want to just throw in another piece of this is that Blenda is a professional truck driver with her granddaughter. Her granddaughter and her tag team drive a semi. That semi rolls for 20 hours a day. Everybody says, well, just diet and exercise, eat better and exercise. How is she supposed to eat better and exercise when she's in the cab of a semi for 20 plus hours a day? It is incredibly condescending for some people to just say, this is all you have to do. Yep, it is. Blenda has done that from inside the cab of a truck. Absolutely amazing. Now 140. Good for you, right? Right? I'll be on it forever. It's awesome. It's changed her life. It's fundamentally changed her life. She is a new woman with new outlook, with new... Why would you change it? Okay. What other questions? Let me ask this question. Is there anybody that wants to purchase the product but does not know how to? And if that is you, then type the word help. If that is you, then type the word help. If you want to buy the product but you don't know how to, type the word help. Don't worry about calling me. Got all the questions. Awesome, Robert. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. How are you doing on it so far, Robert? Are you happy? Sheila says help. Okay, Sheila. Okay, Sheila, here we go. I am going to, you know what I'm going to do, Sheila, is I'm going to bring up camera number 2. How cool is this, right? Camera number 2. Okay, Sheila, this is my live stream on TikTok. Okay? You're not my coach, but I really appreciate the knowledge. Thank you. You know what? That is too kind, Nubian. That is too kind. Okay. So, Sheila, do you see the, are you looking at the same thing now, right? For everybody, let's do it this way. So, up in the top left-hand corner, there is a picture of me. And then my name. It says Healthy Pitmaster and 800 likes. Guys, we got to get that thing up to 10,000. It's only at 833 likes. Can you guys start tapping the screen and get that thing up to like 10,000 likes? That's what tells TikTok that this needs to get pushed out to more people. Start tapping away. That's embarrassing. 833 likes. Okay, so what you're going to do, Sheila, is tap that picture of me. When you tap that picture, it'll bring up this banner. Okay? You'll tap that picture of me again, and you'll be at my home page. When you're at my home page, that link right there, Linktree / The Healthy Pitmaster, and then right there, click that link right there. That is the manufacturer's webpage, okay? You're using my wife and I's referral link to get a lifetime discount to them, okay? I hope that helps. Let me know if it does not. Let me know, Sheila, if you need more help. I will gladly go through that again. And that link is on every social media platform that I have, folks. It's on every social media platform that I have. Okay, so it is an amazing protocol. Let's see. So, Amanda, thank you. I see everybody liking the like. Gina Milner, how are you today? What questions are there, guys? And again, it can be any question. It doesn't have to be about the product. I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable on product. I can certainly answer questions on it, but maybe you have a question about the foods that I eat or the times that I eat. Ask away. Ask questions. And I will say that right now, it is Wednesday. I am going into an extended fast. I'm going to do a longer term fast. I had an awful dinner last night. It was a really good dinner, but it was awful for me. And so what about protein? Eat protein. Protein will make you feel full. Yes. Prioritize. There's a statement. Prioritize fats and proteins. Okay. Go for good fats and good proteins. So don't be afraid of a ribeye steak. avocado, wonderful fats, olive oil, oleic acid, salmon. Go for good quality fats. Eggs are wonderful for you. An egg is a wonderful thing for you. Great fat, great protein, great fat to protein ratio. In fact, one of the more perfect fat to protein ratios. That's from Dr. Ben Bickman. How are you today, Gina? Gina, I know that I feel like you are beginning to be one of the biggest fans. Is that accurate, Gina? What about a protein drink? By the way, guys, I'm using an internet-based company to stream my live stream to you, and there's a chat feature in there that just disconnected. It's no longer connected to TikTok, so I'm having to read my chat off of my phone. So if you see me keep on looking down, it's so I can read the comments that are coming in. A protein drink. Brooks, you know, it's funny. I actually had 2 hard-boiled eggs and a protein shake for lunch yesterday. It was late. It was like 2 o'clock. I wanted to break my fast, but I was starving and I didn't have much time at all. And so I grabbed 2 hard-boiled eggs and I took a protein shake yesterday. It's the first time in probably 3 weeks that I've had a protein shake. I get it. They're satiating. But if part of what I've been talking about is avoiding highly processed foods and sticking to a whole food diet, well, that protein shake doesn't fit that mold at all. They're all highly processed. They've got things in them that we probably shouldn't be drinking. So I use them from time to time, like I did yesterday. Like, hey, I want something. I need something. I don't have much time. This fits the bill right now. So I did it yesterday, but I don't do it very frequently. Okay, it's more of an occasional thing. Eat real protein. Eat whole food, whole uncut meat. Gina is becoming one of. I added protein drinks to get in enough protein. Gina, add meat. Eat meat. Okay. I hope that did great. That you like that answer? Okay. I love the interaction, by the way. There's been a lot of great interaction here. Is there anybody that wants to order the system but does not know how to? And if that is you, type the word help and I will know exactly what you are talking about, okay? Use them a lot with double fiber. Let me see here. The protein shakes, Blenda. Okay. Getting good protein out here on the truck is hard. It is absolutely hard. Okay, guys. What questions do we have? If any. Does anybody have any questions for me? Otherwise, I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. I feel like this has been a really good live stream. I've enjoyed the interaction. I really appreciate the interaction. Does anybody have any questions at all? Let's see. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, we're almost to 8,000 likes. Awesome, guys. I love this. Appreciate you, Crafty. I appreciate you. I could take that one, but Blenda has already kind of hit it. Gina, so here's the deal. If I'm going to have something like last night, great example. I went over to the Indian restaurant right next to my house. We have this place, absolutely phenomenal Indian food. It is so freaking good. But what I've learned about Indian food is that it is awful for you. It's all white rice and breads, and there is a reason that like 12% of India has diabetes. It's a higher rate of diabetes in India than it is in the United States. And you really start looking at that number, and that is terrifying. They've got like, between them and China, they have more diabetics than we have people. It is a huge problem in India. Well, I went over there yesterday for dinner. Amanda and I, we love the restaurant. It's a treat for us. We don't eat it very frequently. We went over there last night and they have chicken mughlai. Oh, it's so good. But it comes with like a cup and a half of white rice. And then what's the bread? Naan bread. Just carb after carb after carb. So what I did last night to get my body ready for it, I had 2 berberines. And then after the 2 berberines, I took those probably half an hour before we went over there. And then when I got there, I took a double balance and drank that right before I started eating. And my glucose number stayed really pretty until about 2 o'clock in the morning. But that's pretty typical. Berberine, B-E-R-B-E-R-I-N-E, berberine. Berberine is, it's kind of just generically called the all-natural metformin. Nelda, I just answered your question too. Eggs, Nubian, how about eggs and cholesterol free? I want to play a video for you, Nubian. I want to play a video for you. And this is Dr. Ben Bikman, my guy, right? You guys, everybody knows that I'm a big fan of Bikman. Big fan of Bikman, okay? This is Dr. Bikman talking about the way that we talk about cholesterol. Should we be eating cholesterol free? Should we cholesterol is a molecule of life. Okay, and this is Dr. Ben Bikman talking about it.
Cholesterol is a molecule of life. Despite our general societal fear of it, it is involved in countless processes within every cell of the body. Unfortunately, our fear or hatred of cholesterol has given rise to the use of statins, which is a general class of medication that acts to inhibit the body's ability to create cholesterol. While that is a good way, a statin, to lower your cholesterol, there are consequences to this. Here's a manuscript that was just published in the European Journal of Pharmacology, and it outlines the evidence implicating statins as a molecule or a drug that increases the risk of insulin resistance and therefore type 2 diabetes. Ironically, insulin resistance is a greater predictor and risk factor for heart disease than LDL cholesterol is. So tragically, and again, ironically, despite lowering cholesterol levels, by increasing insulin resistance, we may be making the problem even worse.
I would say, are we demonizing cholesterol? Should we be having those lower? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But we've been chasing cholesterol, and heart disease is still the #1 cause of death in the United States. And Dr. Bikman would say that insulin resistance is a greater predictor for heart disease than LDL cholesterol. So focus on your insulin resistance. And specifically, Dr. Bikman talks a lot about your triglycerides and your HDL, that ratio right there. If you take your triglycerides and you divide them by your HDL, that ratio right there matters, okay? Triglycerides divided by HDL. Now, that should be under 1.8. If it's over 1.8, you've got a problem. If it's 3, you've got a problem. Address your insulin resistance. If you're at a 5, that's a big problem. When I started my health journey, mine was a 25.5. It was off the charts. Get it below 1.8. Focus on your insulin resistance and get that number down. That triglycerides divided by your HDL. That's the number that people like Dr. Bickman are really aiming for right now. You know, Gina, send me a text and I will send you. Gina asks, where do we get berberine? Send me a text and I'll just send you a link to the one that I get. And I don't use it that often. It really is, I reserve it for when I have meals like I had last night. When I go out for pizza, I'll take berberine, a couple berberine. I don't use it very often. Done with diabetes. How are you? What's up, Kristen? Guys, if you're not giving, I think I've already said, if you're not giving Blenda Healthy Life a follow, you should be. Give her a follow. Just tap her profile picture and hit follow. And then right below her, she just commented in the section, done with diabetes. Kristen, you should be giving her a follow as well. Amazing stories. These women are incredible. Definitely give them both a follow, okay? And I believe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Kristen, but I believe Kristen is working her way up to doing live streams and talking about the same exact thing. Ron Davis. I didn't see Ron. Ron, give Ron a follow as well. I believe Kristen is getting ready to do live streams, and I'll tell you what, if you've never done a live stream, it's terrifying working up the nerve to do it. Truthfully, I've done now 600 or 700 of them, a lot of them, probably 600, and they're still terrifying to me. So when she does go live, jump in and support her. Live's coming. That's what I thought. Getting stronger every day. She has an amazing story. You should definitely be giving Done with Diabetes and Blenda Healthy Life and Ron Davis. Give them all a follow. So, Ron, are you going to be doing live streams as well? I believe you were talking about doing live streams. You got 600 followers. Yeah, Sheila. Did you order the system, Sheila? I know you were asking about. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I've got my own personal camera right here that has the comments on it. I can't see them on my thing right now. So if you'd like, Sheila, if you send me a direct message, Sheila, and I will respond with the link directly. How's that? Would that be easier? Gina, anyone have a tasty alternative to bread? I do one 45-calorie slice a day, but two. Okay, Sheila, send me a message. And I'm actually on that. I'm on my homepage right now. Send me a message right now, Gina, or Sheila, and I will respond to you with the thing directly, with the link directly, okay? How's that? And Gina, I have an answer for you. I have a great answer for you. Let's see, but I want to take care of Sheila real quick. Okay. As soon as Sheila sends me a message. Oh, that was not the right one. Okay. Waiting for Sheila's message. I don't see it yet. Okay. Do you not? Here we go, Sheila. Do this. Here we go. I know what we're going to do, Sheila. I know exactly what we're going to do. Okay? I am going to turn on this camera. That's me in HD, right? Looking right up my nose hairs. I'm going to do this. Do you see that link right there? Take a screenshot of that. Let me scoot out a little bit. Sorry. Dang it. There we go. Take a screenshot of that. Linktree/the Healthy Pitmaster. That's what you want. Linktree/the Healthy Pitmaster. Do you see that right there? Let me know when you got a screenshot of it. Okay. Right up my nose hairs. There you are, Sheila. Oh, Sheila. I sent you the link in June of last year. Are you in here still, Sheila? Wow. I sent Sheila the link in June of last year. That just goes to show some people really want to spend some time researching it. That's awesome. She sent me a message. I just looked at it, and yeah, I sent her that in June of last year. Some people do that. They really want to be, they're skeptical. I get it. 11 months. Okay. It's pretty dang quiet. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I see our viewers on all of the different platforms. Kind of have to watch the words that I say, but I want to acknowledge you. I see you all on the other platforms. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to do these. I will be live on TikTok every single day at about 8:30 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. So I guess 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. I'm going to do that pretty much every day. On the weekends, I think I'm going to do 9 a.m. So 11 and 8. Okay. But if you don't get a notification, just know that around that time, I will be live every single day. And I'm going to be live on all those other platforms a couple times a week. I think it'll be Wednesdays and Sundays. Okay. So if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate. Send me a message. Whatever platform you're on, send me a message. I respond to everything, every single message I send. If you are on the fence, jump in. You're not going to be upset. And if you are upset, ask for a refund. They'll give you all your money back. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what they offer. Also, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever platform you're watching me on, come back and watch at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. There will be another live stream that will be incredibly informational. It'll be wonderful. Okay. Come back and check that live stream out. And then I will be back live on TikTok tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting me over 13,000 likes. How many shares? I can't see how many shares we have on TikTok. Let me get to that. I wouldn't have any shares. That's strange. Interesting. But, or maybe there it is. I just can't see them from there. No, I can't see it actually. Okay. So, guys, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will, you know what, I wonder if I can fix. I'm seeing if I can fix the chat myself here. I just realized that I've got through TikTok Live, I've got the ability. Here we go. I like this. I can see all of the comments on TikTok. I like this, actually. Here are comments. Okay, well, I'm just now figuring out how to show those, but there's the TikTok comments for the last little while. Now I got something for tomorrow for Saturday's live stream. So, okay, guys, thank you very much. If you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to come back and send me a message. I respond to everything. Most importantly, if you're on the fence, get off the fence. Try it. There's nothing to lose. Done with diabetes, went from an 11.2% A1C. She just found out last week she's at a 6. That's an amazing thing. So try it, give it a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, ask for money back. Also, if you're on it, keep staying in tune with these live streams like Gina. I love that, Gina. I hope it's keeping you motivated. So stay involved with the live streams. I've got a lot of calls to make. If I've told you that I was going to call you, I plan to today. It's just been that way. So we will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for all the likes, the follows, the shares,